What's up, everybody? Welcome to House Divided on Orange Bloods Live. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That's Chad Hastings. Thanks for joining us to talk a little Texas football, Texas draft follow-up, Texas portal discussion, all of those things. Brought to you by the amazing partners, Texas Card House. 6 locations all over the state of Texas. Couple in Austin. You got them in Houston. You got them in the Metroplex. They are everywhere, taking over the world one location at a time. And oh, by the way, if you'd rather just play online, they have that too. Hijack Poker, their brand new online app, online game. You can play for real money against real people. It's real simple. I do it all the time. There's a noon tournament that's tipping off, kicking off, carding off here in a matter of seconds. It probably just started. I wish I was playing. I'm not because I'm doing the show, but I have the schedule down pat. Scan that QR code. Go play some Hijack Poker. You got to be inside the state of Texas, though. It's a very important detail.
So what is your poker guy? What's that phrasing? Like it's kickoff in football. It's face off in hockey. What is it? First hand at noon?
Is that dealing? Let's deal.
First deal?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
The first hand.
First hand, first deal.
But I've definitely have heard first deal. So yes.
Yeah, it works. Catch, you got a fan out there. At least one. David loves you. Overreaction Monday was so good. I'm back for more.
I don't even know what I did. I did go on a little bit on the Shador Sanders prank calling deal, Chad, okay, where I just don't have time for the coddling of the bearer of bad actions. Like that kid stole a phone number off his dad's tablet.
Damn.
Made a prank phone call. And then immediately after it's over with, the headline is like, so defensive coordinator's son commits awful action. He's a good kid, though. It's like, no, he's not. First of all, he's not a kid. He's a 21-year-old man. And second of all, he's a bad person. He's a bad human being. Stop doing this thing where he's a 21-year-old kid. Really?
Yeah. Sadly, Catch, the best part of that story, if there is a best part of that story, might be, and I'll admit I don't want to hear the audio because I didn't care to check it out. I talked to someone who did, though, and they said it was fairly lame. Like it was fairly milquetoast in terms of what it actually was. That's like the best part of that story to me. The rest of it is just icky.
I'm like you. I didn't listen or watch it either. I have no interest in participating in that.
I've been told it was pretty lame in terms of, there was nothing crazy said, nothing inflammatory, nothing, didn't cross any major lines other than the most obvious line that you just mentioned of stealing a number from your father. Like, come on.
So let's do this before we get into the draft, because I have a feeling once we do, we won't come back.
Yeah, that's fair.
Let's just establish one of the things that we wanted to do in today's show, which was, since you and I have last done a show, the portal closed.
Yes.
And so who's in is in, what's in is in, almost whatever is done is done. And oh, by the way, the Longhorns had one more person go into the portal on Friday, as well as
after Kern?
Yeah, Michael Kern was the most recent.
Kern was. Okay.
Sorry. Right. I was getting him and the timing of him and Bert Auburn confused, in part because both of those guys have already kind of settled in places. At least Bert Auburn is playing at Miami next year.
Is that right? I hadn't heard that Auburn that's a good landing spot.
So Auburn found a soft landing spot at Miami. Good for him. And I saw that Michael Kern was taking at least an official visit to Oklahoma State in the coming days. So that is where my brain was a little bit twisted. I was trying to remember which of those guys went in first. I was like, oh, yeah, Bert Auburn did. Michael Kern was last. So the Longhorns sitting at 83. Mm-hmm. 83 scholarships, 2 to go. The news today that Nick Brooks, their star freshman, I don't know, he was one of the better freshmen of the arriving freshmen. Backup left tackle Nick Brooks arrested this weekend with a DUI charge, which is a reminder that they're sitting at 83. And that number can sometimes go below where you think it is, and it might have nothing to do with the portal. Not that I think Nick Brooks is going anywhere. I think this will be his one get out of jail card. Don't make any other mistakes, but a DUI charge in 2025 doesn't typically get a guy kicked off the team, especially when I think they absolutely want to keep him in the program, but that happened. It's a newsy event from the day.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, though, it won't be anything that plays out in public. And I'm sure, again, as long as he now moving forward can walk a very straight and narrow path, he'll be fine.
Yeah. Also, just a weird note that only I would bring to the discussion, but yesterday did happen to be Arch Manning's 21st birthday. So one of the thoughts in my head is, did the guys get together at midnight on his 21st and really get after it? Nick Brooks ends up getting booked at like 3:40 in the morning on that particular Sunday. Not saying it's connected, but I did see that along the way. And I'm like, I wonder if everybody was out celebrating the quarterback's 21st birthday. So just a note in that story. Who knows if it's relevant, but that is a fact. So,
well, you just made it relevant. That was kind of a shitty thing to do.
No, it's not. I'm just saying it's something that I saw and I'm like,
What if he was in Bible camp?
Right? I'm just offensive player. Why would
they have Bible, they have churches on that stretch of highway where he got pulled over. He could have been church.
Hey, I'm just saying, not everybody's out drinking on a early Sunday morning. Why the hell would he do it? Well, there's a reason that might lead you to why would guys be out? Why would Longhorns be out drinking on that Sunday? Well, yes, it was an important Sunday. Just saying.
You sound like a meddlesome media person is what you're saying.
I don't mean to be meddlesome. I'm sorry.
Just saying that's what you sound like.
Happy birthday, Arch, by the way. Hope 21 went well. And hope your first drink went really well.
Yes. Team yes.
Yep.
Is this what it's like to do a show with me occasionally? Is that what that feels like? I'm not sure. It's a weird sensation. Onward, knock twice if this is exactly what it's like.
I learned from the best, Catch. I learned from the best.
So, think about of all the shows that we've done, now we can stop with who's going in, what might be available. We know what that looks like now, barring grad transfers and barring, someone changing their head coach in the middle of a really bad time to do so. So I think we know what the portal looks like. Texas can still go shopping. There is still, they can go get two. Now, what's available, I have to throw myself on the sword here, Chad. I was wrong. I thought the talent available would be deeper than it's been. Nothing happened late that changed the dynamics of anything. So there are some players that are out there that I think could absolutely help this team in the short term. There's a part of me that thinks, boy, it's a good thing they were ready to go when they were to strike with Murad Watson and Emmett Mosley. When they went bang, bang, bang and hit all those guys almost before anything happened. It's a good thing that happened because not a lot happened beyond that, not just with Texas, but in the portal in general. So I think it's really interesting to think about how they might approach how to get better from here. Like I think wide receiver is probably the position in the portal right now that has the best available. But I don't know that you're automatically getting a guy now in the portal who, if he showed up, is better than Jamie French is as a true freshman. Now we're at whoever you bring in might be the fourth, fifth, or sixth best receiver, maybe fifth or sixth. Because I do think when it comes to the Texas wide receivers, you can close your eyes and kind of see a rotation of Ryan Wingo, Parker Livingstone, DeAndre Moore, Emmett Mosley. It feels like those will be the top four. Mm-hmm. And then it feels like Jamie French, Dalen McCutcheon, Khalik Lockett, Michael Terry. Can any of those freshmen bang down the door in a way where they hop in the mix? Because it was Ryan Wingo that really kind of pushed Silas Bolden back a little bit last year in the pecking order. And then the moment Jonte Cook left, that playing time opened back up for Jonte Cook for Silas Bolden. That's where a lot of those additional receiving reps were coming from was they were vacated by Jonte Cook. When you look at the wide receiver position, we know what vacates. We know who will fill those voids. So I think those 4 guys are the guys. And by the way, it sounds like Ryan Wingo came back at the very end of camp, had a really good day Saturday in the scrimmage. So it ends well with Ryan Wingo after missing the majority of the spring.
That's an interesting note that he came back at the end. Because I guess there could be an ingredient of, well, why would you risk something like that at the end of spring? But it's also it really was an injury that wasn't that big a deal. And the fact that he was able to, get a couple practices in, like that's even better news, I would think, on that injury.
Yeah, it sounds like were very cautious with it because they said at the time of the injury that they didn't view it as so like a serious deal. And it was hinted that he could be back before the end of camp. And I think we all thought, well, if it's a hamstring injury, why would you even bother? And
just leave it alone. Yeah, just let him have it the whole time.
But in the end, I kind of think it was much needed. Arch Manning has not been a guy that I think has had a chance to play pitch and catch with the guys that he's going to be playing pitch and catch with outside of Parker Livingstone.
I bet Arch dug the fact that he came back late.
Hey, man. Music to his ears, I'm guessing. That was his 21st birthday present.
Yes. And by the way, Catch, I would like to say, apparently Wikipedia lied to me. I apologize on behalf of Wikipedia because they said he was 21. Rex and others are saying he's 20. I just double-checked a different source, and it did say 05. That's my bad. That is my bad. Wikipedia lied.
How do you feel like a meddlesome media guy?
I am so sorry. No. I just feel like I got wrong information. I'm sorry. But I'm gonna own up to it. I got wrong information. So if we can't trust Wikipedia, Catch, I mean, what kind of universe are we? Yeah. Anyway, there you go.
An Aggie did that, Chad. Somebody went in and purposefully changed his age in Wikipedia because anybody can change Wikipedia. Anyway.
Yeah, I know. It's true. By the way, Catch, speaking of Aggies, people are letting me know streets are dirty out there. A lot of brooms needed around the area.
How did that taste?
I do have a couple brooms, McCard, that felt like there was brooms everywhere. Christopher reminding us that the Aggies did get swept. You doing okay, Chad? Christopher, thank you for checking in. I'm doing all right. Licking wounds. I
know that stung.
If you saw the UFC event over the weekend and a couple of those knockouts, at times this weekend, I kind of felt like my man he was standing at one point and then he just kind of went horizontal. Yeah, that's sort of what it felt like. That's tough. But as my man Jeff Ketchum always says, to the victor goes the spoils, and that Longhorn team just sweeps people. 5 out of 7 series as sweeps. They've only lost two games.
They have a 5-game lead in the SEC.
Like they could have lost another one of those series, Catch, and we'd still say, "My God, this team, it's unbelievable." But
they could get swept in Fayetteville this upcoming week, and they'd still have a 2-game lead in the standings with a couple series to go. So
yeah, and that's why, that series is interesting because of what you just said. Texas really needs to make sure they're getting one game. Not that this is a team that's in danger of getting swept, but like you said, it could tighten up real fast if Arkansas has a massive weekend. But yeah, congrats to Texas. 3 1-run wins. I think that makes them 7-1 now. Is that right? Or 7-1, or maybe 8-1 if you add the Texas State game, I think.
Well,
no.
Their record,
they won that by multiple. 7-1, I think, is the record now in 1-run games. Just incredible. Yeah.
And I think what's incredible is they've lost arguably their 2 best players, and it's not slowing them down.
Yeah.
You lose your Friday night starter, and for that not to be an immediate Achilles heel, or lose arguably your top bat in the lineup. What's interesting about this Texas baseball team is I can almost always count on them. If they're in a slump, they'll break out of a slump with a home run. Like they hit the ball, and
it's a good way to do it if you're going to do it.
I can always count on. It's 2-0. It's the 4th inning. They'll probably break out of this with somebody hitting a long ball, and the next thing you know, that's kind of what happens. They're a good baseball team. I don't know what to say about them other than they've been pretty damn clutch, and they were really good this weekend against A&M. And look, I can only imagine That had to have been a shit sandwich that tasted quite nasty to not even salvage a game this weekend, given the circumstances of that series. Not good, Bob. Not good. If you're an A&M fan, if you're a Texas fan, it is the stuff that bragging rights and shit talking is literally made out of.
And if you are one of those Longhorn fans and you want to throw us a super chat, it will go right to the top. We just got 2 super chats in, and one of them features broom emojis. If you haven't considered broom emojis today, they're apparently out there. Hooked on the Horns wants you to know it. $5. Chad, we're better and gooder than your Aggies. Womp! With a big exclamation point.
The 3 brooms.
Hooked on the Horns. I am at a point now where the only layer of good news is at least you spelled Aggies right. Like, that's the only thing I've got today.
Well, he went lowercase though.
He did go lowercase, but I got to take anything I can get right now. Catch. I got to find the good where I can.
Wow, that is the most moral victory of all the moral victories.
Oh my God, that my OCD actually considered that a positive. That is pathetic. Let's see. We also got a $10. Now this is a warning, Catch. This is maybe takes us in another area. $10 during the draft. Were you more perplexed with Quinn being drafted late or Bond not being picked up? UDFA. OutKast was just inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. What are your top 3 OutKast songs? Wow, there's a lot going on there, Catch. Do we get to that now, or does that take us off course a little too far?
No, I mean, maybe now is, well, look, leave Tracy's question up there for a second.
Okay.
Let's just close this up, because if we go away from the topic, it's gone, I think.
Yeah.
I was talking about they're sitting at 83.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I think it's offensive line, but I don't think that there's a obvious, they have to go out and do this or the season is screwed. So if you've got 2 spots, just before we move on, do you have how would you handle this? What would you do? Like, is there an obvious play here?
I think I would do my best to find an interior offensive line help of some sort that meets your standard. And then I would just kind of go skill shopping. And I would tell myself receiver or tight end, whichever is blinking louder, whichever is the more, if you get, not that it's injuries level again, but I'm saying if you got another tight end that made you go, okay, now, have you seen this dude? Did you see these numbers? We love to run 12 personnel. If it's that guy, go get that guy. Or if it's a receiver that maybe like we talked about where it's a receiver, but it also could be a kick returner. It could be a punt returner. It could get you that kind of dynamic. That's what I would do. Interior O-line, and then go skill shopping for a cherry on top. What about you?
I mean, it really does come down to, I think, what you think is available to you in the portal. Because again, I think if there was a guy that they thought was an absolute, part of what I'm looking at wide receivers who I've watched them not go after in the portal. So there have been available wide receivers, good receivers, some that just recently made their decisions. Trevor Pena ends up having a big year out of Syracuse, goes to Penn State. They had every opportunity to get involved in that, and they didn't really. That wasn't really kind of what they wanted to do. They felt like Emmett Mosley was their guy. Other than kicking the tires on the kid out of BYU, Keelan Marion, who signed with Miami over the weekend.
Oh, see, I hadn't seen that. All right, so he's off the board now.
He's off the board. So when we talk about what's on the board, these are my current rankings of top 10 players available in the portal. And I'm not saying that this is right, because there's a ton of guys that maybe I just haven't seen. So this is like a very fluid, always evolving list. But there's a linebacker out of North Carolina named Amari Campbell, who's like a good player. He might be good enough to start at Texas. Like, for instance, he's more productive than Leon Galafau from a year ago. So could you upgrade? Maybe. Is that your biggest need? I doubt they're aching for linebacker help, but I'm just telling you, there's not a lot that's left. You've got AJ Halsey, who was an all Big 12 safety from Houston last year. I don't know that they're shopping at the safety store right now, given that they think they got Derek Williams coming back and they've recruited that position so well. There's a linebacker out of Rutgers named Mohamed Toure, who 2 years ago, let me tell you what this kid is, Chad. He's one of these. He's like the 3rd round pick that the Cowboys took.
Okay.
If he's healthy, he's a first rounder, but he's coming off of an ACL injury. This guy, a year ago, going into the portal, would have been one of the top linebackers available. He's coming off of an ACL tear. Now he's in the portal. Are you getting that guy? Or are you getting a lesser version of that guy? And then you start getting into the Jonte Cooks of the world. Incarnate Ward, wide receiver Roy Alexander, who is visiting Texas Tech right now. I mean, we're just not into the territory where I think there are many guys that I look at and go, oh, yeah, no, that guy comes in and 2025 better. So I really come away thinking they should have used these two earlier. Waited maybe too long to shop at the store they really want to shop at.
Even though they were pretty active, you're thinking maybe it should have been even more.
Well, I think maybe in December. And it's easy to say that now in
the front side,
almost May, that in retrospect, maybe they should have done something, but they don't have any huge holes. I just think that, here's what you're not going to do. You're not going to give those to walk-ons who have more than 1 year of eligibility. It really is leaving a couple of potential bullets unused when you really need to use them all. I think that they'll probably give those out, and I think they're probably this is where having a great scouting department would absolutely come in handy if you're Texas. Because whereas I don't have a deep set of rankings, they should have, Coach, you want a special teams player? We've got special teams players ranked. What do you want? Kick returner, gunner? What do we need? Right. They should have active rankings of those players right now, whereas I don't have that.
Right. But I would think they have some form of that, right?
I have to believe so. But how much do they trust it? Right. And where are they at on that list where if you get to a point where there's only a couple scholarships left, but you're having a hard time finding places where you think guys are going to come in and be able to help, maybe the answer is special teams. Maybe it's easier to find guys that but I kind of think they'll hold one back. That wouldn't you want to go into August with one just in case?
Yeah, maybe. It couldn't hurt.
I don't know what the hell you're getting in August beyond Velton Gardner at running back in the event that you had one left. But, I don't know. I'm curious. Steve Sarkeesian is literally talking at the Longhorn at an event in Houston today. I would love for that question to come up and kind of get his vibe on how they want to handle this last little thing. Now, moving on to Tracy's questions and his super chats. Let's go backwards and work our way forwards.
Okay. And real quick, before you do that, Catch, let's give Specs some love. We're working up towards 500 folks in the Specs chat. Let's give that anniversary its due because they're 63.
Have you heard the news? Specs is turning 63, and we're celebrating you. Whether you're looking for whiskey, canned cocktails, or wine, Specs has it all with Texas-sized savings all month long. Specs. Cheers to save.
All right, Tracy, here we go. You want to start backwards and work our way through it, or do you want to start with the draft?
No, because once we go to the draft, we probably won't move on from the draft.
Right. Okay.
Yes, congratulations to OutKast. Tracy, my favorite OutKast song is my first OutKast song. So I'm a Players Ball guy. Like, that's my jam. I love that song. It's hard not to go Bombs Over Baghdad. I love everything on the Southern Playalistic Cadillac album. So, anything off of that album, whether it's Hootie Who. I mean, so my favorite OutKast is my first OutKast, like my first love, actually. What about you, Chad?
Honestly, because of you, my answer would be similar. That is the one OutKast album I've been all the way through, and there's a lot of great stuff on there. The title track of Southern Playalistic is one that always sticks in my head. And then probably like Players Ball is great. You are absolutely right. I'll go like Players Ball, Hootie Who, and then it's not on that. Is Miss Jackson on that album or a different album?
Different album.
I do dig that song too. And I know that's probably like an easy choice because it's one of the big ones, but I'll go
one
there.
Of the big ones for a reason.
I'll go there. Yeah, it's huge for a reason. I mean, I think the most wide-ranging, maybe wide-reaching OutKast song ever might be Hey Ya, but that's not what I would put as one of my absolute favorite. It's one of the catchiest songs they've ever done.
It is a banger, Chad.
It is, yeah. Oh, every time I hear it, it makes me happy. I get very happy, but I'm not going to put it in the top 3.
Bond not getting picked up as an undrafted free agent was not a shock even a little bit. The guy's dealing with sexual crime, sexual assault allegation. This just in, no GM wants to answer that question on the day of the weekend of the draft. Hey, are you insensitive to women's rights and women's protect because you took Isaiah Bond? No, he's going to have to get that cleared up. And it's not. And no, it's not. I'm not perplexed. On the 1 to 10 scale of being perplexed with Isaiah Bond right now, I'm at a 0. I'm not perplexed. I'm on the non-perplexed scale. Quinn, I'm a little bit on the perplexed scale. Because they've got to look, man, if we get to a point and Kyle McCord is being chosen over Quinn Ewers, there's a little bit of like, well, I guess. But then there was the Riley Leonard thing, and we were, well, wait a minute. I don't even know if that guy can throw a football. And then
Riley Leonard.
Was
Will Howard.
I mean, look, that guy won a national championship. Like, there were guys, like, again, that fall in the category of I guess.
Yeah.
But we eventually got to, wait a minute. Who the fuck is the quarterback at North Dakota State? And why is that guy getting drafted over Quinn?
Yeah, not exactly Carson Wentz or the other cat that came from North Dakota State recently.
And then there was another guy that was like from Montana State. And they were like, oh, it's okay. He's a quarterback that got drafted at another position.
That doesn't make it better.
Oh, is it okay then?
It's fine. It's great. Okay. All right.
Look, there's two sides to me to this Ewers story. And there's a bunch of tentacles that go into different directions, different layers to the things that we're going to talk about. The first side of this, Chad, for me is let's just focus on personal. It sucked, man. I am always pained by this guy is collapsing in the draft story and the cameras that follow. And I don't care if the guy was expected to go number 2 and he falls to number 14. I hate watching the video of the anxiety that everybody feels. It's awful. It is and a lot of times it becomes must-see TV, but it's for all the wrong reasons. It is, let's find some sort of enjoyment out of a really horrible, horrible moment in a guy's life. And because if these guys ever have success in the NFL, they will point to this day as one of their motivating factors for whatever it is that leads them to whatever future success they have. They will point to this day and say, this was awful, and I pushed myself because of it. So I ached for Quinn as a human being. I've referenced when we were at the SEC Media Days in June, I've referenced this story 100 times since it happened. But I was there, and the last question that he was asked at SEC Media Days was by me, And I asked him, does this all feel like the last rodeo for you? That it's kind of a goodbye tour, if you will? And he said, yeah. Because wouldn't it be, and he was like, wouldn't it be cool to have a great year, go into the NFL draft, and live the life that you've dreamed about living? And I thought about that moment a lot this weekend, Chad, because when he answered, wouldn't that be cool, back in June, it wasn't this. Whatever it was that he had in his head for going to the NFL and wouldn't that be cool, the realization of a dream, lasted until round 7 and becoming the lowest drafted ever number 1 or number 2 quarterback in the history of the Rivals rankings by a lot.
I was going to say, by how many rounds?
Previous
4,
to this,
5?
it was Serell Pryor who went in the 3rd round of a supplemental draft. And I think we all know that Terrell Pryor comes with a little bit of an asterisk when we have that. This ends up being an NFL wide receiver when it's all said and done. So
Right.
non-players who got moved to other positions as athletes, well, then it's Jimmy Clausen at pick 48, which even now is still remembered as one of the great all-time falling moments in draft history. I mean, Mel Kiper famously on the day of that draft said that if Clausen wasn't a quality, good NFL starter by year 7, that he would never do another draft show again. So the human part of that for me, Chad, it sucked. There was nothing about seeing a clearly shaken and having cried Quinn Ewers' face on my TV screen on Saturday, trying to put a good face on what happened. It was awful. It was not good.
Yeah, I'm glad I missed the tears part of that. I did not see that reaction, but I've heard that it was pretty emotional to watch. That was crazy. Yeah, if you tell me, Tracy, that Shador Sanders gets drafted before Quinn Ewers, there's just kind of a nod of, well, yeah, right. And then you go, and Shador's getting drafted in the 5th. That's where it turns into what? It turns into a whole nother discussion.
And look, so Chad, here's where.
Thank you, Tracy, for the 10 spot. We appreciate you.
Here's where we just need to have this conversation real quick. Get it? We need to acknowledge it. It's not fun. We know the people hate it. But no, look, what the NFL told. Look, so there's this conversation that we have about Quinn Ewers over the last couple of years. It's been incredibly uncomfortable. You have Texas fans who refuse to acknowledge at times any of his weaknesses as a player. And when people have any discussions at all about these weaknesses, they've been lampooned. They've been, now the next thing you're going to say is Quinn is the reason why there's no world peace. And it just turns into one sarcastic comment after another as if there's no basis for the conversation. What the NFL told us this weekend is this is how they value a quarterback who can't stay healthy, a quarterback who is inconsistent, not just from game to game, but from quarter to quarter. This is what the NFL viewed. This is how they viewed a player that didn't make noticeable, tangible progress year over year. This is how the NFL viewed a quarterback that doesn't throw the ball down the field well. This is how they viewed him. Yeah. And what took too long in this town is for everybody to acknowledge he's not as good as he needs to be. And it's okay to say that. It's okay to acknowledge the thing that's actually happening. So what happened was this weekend, the reality of what it means to be all of those things at once came to roost. Now, I think he's better than a 7th round quarterback. I am dismayed that Riley Leonard and a few other guys were drafted ahead of Quinn Ewers. But you know what? These teams had access to everything. They had access to the combine. They had access to all his film. They had access to his pro day. They had access to conversations with all his players and coaches and everything that was ever said about him. They 1000% did their homework.
Yeah, maybe a personal workout. I mean, he might have worked out specifically for teams, specific interviews with teams. Like they had all that.
They brought him in as one of their 30 visits.
Right.
He was evaluated. And, like this is just what it is. This is what it is. Now, look, from a Texas football perspective, let's not do the 2024 conversation. That's not fun. No. Honestly, I did a little bit of that earlier, and it's no fun to go down the were they or were they not playing the better quarterback and the rightful quarterback last year.
Right.
Let's just look ahead to 2025. And what I think the NFL industry as a whole is saying is the expectation based off how they evaluated Quinn is that Arch Manning will be much better. He just will be. They've already... we joked about it on Friday that our guy Matt Berry had come up with the March for Arch tagline. There is an expectation that he will be much, much better. Even if you can't scientifically say that because he hasn't completely gone through the evaluation process and hasn't been a long-time starter, all of that, right? Even if we say this is just media driven, we have the basis of how they just evaluated Quinn to fall back on. And what the NFL told us was that as an NFL prospect, they viewed Quinn behind the way they valued Garrett Gilbert and Sam Ehlinger. Because he went drafted behind both of those guys. And I just think that it doesn't change that Quinn was one of the best quarterbacks in the modern era of the program, but it does probably highlight that there haven't been a bunch of great ones. But part of the Quinn Ewers story moving forward is going to be, Chad, he didn't pan out the way everybody thought he would pan out. And that means something different to everybody. But when you're the number one overall consensus player in a recruiting class, and only 2 or 3 other guys have ever done it, and they were all top 3, top 5 picks, that's the expectation for you. And what we can't do is when every team in the NFL passes on him, 5, 6 times? Not everybody had a first-round pick. Sometimes you don't have a 4th-round pick. So
basically,
round. Let's give everybody the grace of everybody was either 6 or 5 or 6 at that point, right?
Yeah.
Everybody passed on him time and time and time and time and time again. So either every NFL team who did their due diligence and desperately wants to find a quarterback, either they're wrong or those that are his biggest supporters are wrong. And, I think the exciting thing is that Texas should be better at quarterback next year. That's ultimately for Texas football all that matters going forward. But as we evaluate what Quinn Ewers was, and we would say things like, the Texas offense hasn't scored more than 20 points in a big game this year against a good team, right? Not including that mess in Norman. But you look at the playoff games, you look at the SEC championship game, and the 2 Georgia games. You look at even the A&M game at the end of the year. The Texas offense just wasn't very productive. So none of us should be shocked that the NFL kind of came away thinking ho hum.
Yeah, you can't force an NFL team to just watch the games in Tuscaloosa and Ann Arbor. You can't do it. You can't force them to only watch that film.
And the thing is, it's not one thing. I think that's the Quinn Ewers conundrum. Mm-hmm. That when it all added up, it's not his injuries. It's partly the injuries. That doesn't help.
Yeah, I think it's 2 I words put together, Catch. It's injury plus inconsistency.
Well, and that
mix those together.
But it's the inconsistencies in everything. It's in his mechanics. It's in his play. It's in his ability to throw the deep ball.
Yeah.
And I said this on the overreaction show. People were getting frustrated at me by doing the quarter by quarter analysis of the Texas passing game. That was never intended to be a gotcha moment. That was intended to be an exercise that simply showed us how effective the Texas passing game was in certain moments of the game. It was only when you'd come out of 3 or 4 quarters going, ugh, that's not good by any measurable, that people started thinking, you're just doing this to get him. And it's like, well, no. No, that's not what this is. I promise. I want him to do well. I promise whenever we'll have a team meeting tomorrow, guys, every Tuesday, except whenever there's like UT stuff that pushes it to Wednesday. We meet on Tuesday as a staff. At no point in any team meeting have we ever had one where we've said out loud, it would be good for business. Texas getting beat and sucking this weekend. Never has happened. Never. So it's a crazy allegation. Now, Chad, as far as the rest of the draft goes.
Mm-hmm. We see y'all super chats, by the way. Paul, we see that you're $10. You'll be first up here.
You'll be first up. I just want to ask Chad this question. The quarterback thing, both Shador and Quinn locally, took so much air out of the balloon. Is there even what else from the draft stands out?
No, it's for me, it's definitely those stories. And also just the quarterback thing as a whole. It's not just about those guys are going to get talked about for obvious reasons, but I think there's a message. It may be a blip and a 1-year thing, but the NFL has been getting ripped on for overrating quarterbacks early. And it almost felt like they were just trying to counteract it. They were trying to go all the way the other way. And it's like the argument that you just made for Quinn Ewers in the old days, and by the old days, I mean last year or 3 years ago, that argument leads you to okay, so we take him in the 3rd. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, probably, but not the 7th. Whatever happened with Shador Sanders, it doesn't lead you to, okay, so he goes in the 5th. Whoa, no.
The thing with Shador can somewhat – so the thing about Shador is that remember back in the day when Howard Dean was a presidential candidate?
Right. Yeah. Ran for president and give the speech and made the laughing noise, and then he couldn't be president.
He was
like that.
Ha! Remember that?
Rah! Yeah. We're going to go get him and we're going to go to Bama. Yeah! That's how it ended. Yeah.
When it was over with, you would have had people that ran that campaign that just would have
they knew. All right, tape up those boxes. We're leaving.
But you couldn't control that. You know what I mean? You try to control everything. And what you can't control is that an off-script moment like that happens that kills everything that you do. Well, Shador Sanders had campaign managers. And what they did with him in the end, they served, this is what served him incredibly wrong. And it's the thing that hasn't been talked about enough with this story. NFL teams didn't view him as an elite prospect, but he treated the process like he was. Imagine any other 5th round prospect not working out at the combine, not working out at the pro day, not wanting to visit teams, not wanting to essentially go through the draft process. He's kind of lucky in a way that he did go in the 5th. Because if you're truly not an elite player, and then you say you blow off the way teams want to conduct their business, it doesn't actually usually go well for people. So it's what makes the Ewers thing so mystifying, because that's not what Quinn was or what he did.
No, right. He was the opposite of that.
Quinn was, and all we had heard was he killed it in interviews, that, he'd done really well in person and stuff like that. And then it came time to draft him. And look, what we know is nobody was willing to stand on a table for Quinn Ewers. And given that position, given that if you hit at quarterback after even in round 1, it's very affordable, all things considered. But to be able to hit on a second round pick like the Eagles did with Jalen Hurts, or a seventh round pick like the 49ers did with Brock Purdy, it is a lifesaver from a fiscal management standpoint for an NFL team. You get to go 3 or 4 years with no quarterback eating up half of your salary cap. And teams were like, we don't want any of Quinn. And we just were getting to the point where multiple punters had been drafted. There was another player from the South Lake Carroll team that he played on that got drafted in front of him. It was such a complete rejection that it's one thing for that guy to fall.
Right.
It's another for the league to say, we don't value him at all, because then what that does is, I think, if you're a Texas football fan, make you ask questions like, what were we even doing? Because that guy wasn't even a better quarterback prospect in the NFL in terms of where he got drafted than Sam Ehlinger or Garrett Gilbert. Like, what was it that they were holding on to? Because the NFL is saying is they looked at what he did as a player.
Yeah.
And
Catch, you think anybody asked Sark that question either today at the touchdown deal or coming up? Because there's only a short window of time where somebody could ask him the question. If you were at that event today and you had one question for Sark, would it be about Quinn or would you stay away from it?
I don't know that I would ask the Quinn question the way that I would ask a Quinn question.
Yeah. Okay. I just wonder because
you have to, I think.
Because real quickly, it's going to make no sense to ask it. Today might be the day. Like, it might be the one opportunity. You can't even
get away with that at SEC Media Day.
Lord, no. In July, you can't ask that question. Not with Arch in the house and all the other quarter. No, that would make no sense. Today might be the day. I wonder if anybody's asking.
I don't know.
Because there's a certain dick move quality to that if you ask that question.
The thing is, the Sark never had to worry about his feet getting held to the fire over the. Look, if we go back, let's relitigate for a moment what happened. The expectation was that Quinn Ewers would go pro after 2023, and that Arch as a redshirt freshman would start. That was, and if you go back even further, there was never any thought. Remember when Arch wasn't going to play as a true freshman, but that was news. Arch is going to redshirt, national news. And I was like, well, no, we've been talking about that for half a year. Well, no, it's national news when it gets officially stated on Twitter. Oh, okay. After 2023, Quinn was supposed to go pro through their own Quinn Ewers family planning. It had always been devised that was the way that they had hoped it would go. It's the way Texas was planning. Didn't play well enough in 2023, in part, got the injury again. He has that collarbone issue. He decides to come back, and Texas is able to avoid the Jackson Arnold, Dylan Gabriel confrontation because Arch Manning says, no, I'm good. I'll wait. Now, everybody all over the country thought what that really meant was he'll transfer. But as it really turned out, Arch was patient enough to wait.
Yep.
But there's a world out there where he's like 99% of the other quarterbacks who are highly rated. And maybe that's too high of a number because there aren't enough of them to get to a true 99% number. So maybe it's like 90. They don't sit around and wait more times than not. They're usually gone if they're not in a position to play. Sark was able to make his decision about what to do with Ewers without ever having to worry about a jeopardy with Manning. So it was like, well, we'll play Quinn in 2024, and then we'll still get 2 years of Arch. We'll get our cake and we'll eat it too. The only way this turns out to have really been a bad decision, really. And look, there are people right now that can say we didn't play the better quarterback last year. We might have won a national championship if Arch had been the starting quarterback, and at the very least, at least we would know, could we have otherwise had more than 14 points on the board offensively? But if Arch plays this year, and let's say they go national, let's say they're a national finalist, and then the feeling is that Arch goes pro, he's the first pick in the draft, and then they have to make a decision on Do you say no to being the number one pick in the draft so that you can go back to another year in school so that you can get ready to be the number one pick in the draft? I'm on the fence, Chad, the side of the fence that says he's going to stay for 2 more years. But I cannot look a Longhorn fan in the eye right now and say that if in December or January, the consensus is he's the number one overall prospect in the 2026 draft, I cannot say with 1,000% certainty that he sticks around for a second year. It's possible because the Mannings are the Mannings and they beat to their own beat. Close enough. But the real world otherwise typically says, what are we talking about? Who are we kidding?
Yeah. All right, Catch. We do have some super chats here that we will get to. Let's go to the biggest money amount, and that is Paul. $9.99. 1, DJU went undrafted after ranked number 3 overall and number 1 quarterback by rivals. 2, based on video, Browns coaches are the most miserable people on the planet today.
Dude, they coach for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah. And 3, prime on prime, Minka Kelly, hotter than Haley Steinfeld.
I'm going to go by.
I would too. That's a hell of a battle, though. And Haley's getting a lot of love recently.
I love Haley Steinfeld, but yeah. Minka Kelly at her prime was Derek Jeter hot.
Yeah, I would go with Minka as well. That is a crazy.
And yes, Ukulele goes undrafted after being ranked 3rd overall. That's not the same as being ranked number 1 overall.
Yeah, that's true. It is a similar discussion, not quite the same discussion as Quinn. Thank you, Paul, for that one. We'll get to some more super chats. Catch, before we do that, why don't you tell the good folks about Rogue Shop? Any Rogue Shop in your weekend to celebrate a Liverpool championship, let's say?
Not only that, there was some Rogue Shop like an hour beforehand. An hour before Liverpool played yesterday, I was like, you know what? Let's get baked. And let's just enjoy the hell out of a great day. And that's exactly what I did. And whether you've got pain, aches, sleeplessness, anxiety, they've got something for you. It's the beautiful thing about the product. Rogue Shop is Texas's home for legal CBD, THC, and so much more. Scan that QR code. Go shopping. Go shopping. Go to the website. Look around. See what looks interesting and kind of go from there. The bottom line is they will make your life a little bit better than it was the day before just by giving them a shot. I stand on the table in my endorsement of an amazing company, Rogue Shop.
Catch, that's the tagline for Liverpool, right? You will never bake alone. Isn't that that's the tagline of the team?
Yes.
Shout out to
NBA.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Back to it. And it's Naman. Thank you for the $4.99. Catch, I truly love your honesty concerning Ewers. There are many who drink the orange Kool-Aid, but you were honest on the evaluation of Ewers. And I guess in the end, so was the NFL. Really honest about the evaluation.
Naaman or Naaman? I think it's Naaman, but that would have been one of the characters from The Wire. So I'm going with Naaman.
Okay.
Remember Naaman was one of the...
I don't remember the name Naaman in that.
I think Naaman was the kid that had the long hair, like season 4.
Oh, right. Okay. All right. I got you. Now I've got the face in my... Yeah.
He was the one that thought he was hard, but wasn't really hard.
Love that character. Yeah, so sweet. So every episode he was in, it's just like, oh, somebody protect him, please. Please. Can we protect him?
I think I've got the name and character correct. Otherwise, I need to go back and watch season 4 of The Wire, which wouldn't be a terrible thing. Man, the Ewers thing, I guess to me it has to be as simple as this. The Texas football program was in the desert wasteland, and there hadn't been and really, even Sam wasn't completely scratching that itch. Mm-hmm. Quinn Ewers comes around as the number 1 overall quarterback prospect, And the thirst to have that, and the last one before that was kind of Trevor Lawrence, and look what he did. And oh, by the way, that's what Vince Young was. Mm-hmm. So to hear that this guy was that, I just think that Texas fans were so thirsty for wanting to experience. Look, man, if you get that guy, you're probably going to win a national championship. That's what those guys do. They win national championships. That they couldn't. There was just anything less than going by the dream meant that the dream wasn't working. So to have any conversation about Quinn at all over the last few years and not say he's a future first-round draft pick and he's a badass and there's no better quarterback that Texas could have to play for them than Quinn Ewers, anything short of that, people felt like you were attacking him. And yeah. I've had people say that I hate Quinn Ewers.
It has been said, yes.
Why? Why did I hate Quinn Ewers?
I don't know. It always felt like a pretty realistic conversation. And
it was always because I was talking about these very things that I think NFL evaluators ended up caring about a lot.
And the other thing, Catch, is as we led into it, to defend any and all of the prognosticators and everything that follow it so closely, like as the combine was happening, we were hoping that Quinn could really make a bit of a spark at the combine. It was okay, right? But there were no big stories about Quinn, no big stories about him making a move. The closer we got to the draft, what happened? Just kept going down lists. Hey, where's Quinn on your list? Well, he's here. Hey, is Quinn going it? Nope. But late first? No. Well, what about, so second day? No, I don't think he's going. And eventually, as it was about to go, I was hopeful that it would be second day. I said I thought it would happen in the third round, trying to be hopeful. But there were a bunch of NFL experts at that moment, Catch, that would have said to me, like, you're dreaming, Chad. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
I couldn't believe the Cowboys weren't even going to throw a seventh on him. It was
right.
It comes at a position that if, you know what I mean? Like, because normally, what was strange is that normally in the draft, so here's what ends up happening in the draft. And there were 19 5-stars that were drafted over the course of, and that number is pretty in line. I mean, hold on. What is 19 divided by 32 is what? Let me do that real quick. Do you know it off the top of your head, Chad?
I do not.
It's basically 60%.
All right.
60% of guys on the average. And I mean, I think that number is a smooch low, a scoosh, 5%.
A smooch low. It's a new measurement. It didn't low. Just that one.
Little one, right? But 15 of those went in the first 2 rounds, which is an incredible number. That basically means, when I always talk about the value of 5-stars, it's not just that they hit at a high rate, right? Where 60% drafted in the NFL on any given year. It's that they're not just being drafted, they go super high. So 15 go 9 in the first round, 6 in day 2, which leaves 4 over the last 5 rounds.
Yeah. And
there wasn't a round where there was more than one. So I think there was here. Let me just pull it up. Let me just, it's one of those where I could just look at it, except I don't still have it up. There wasn't one taken in the 6th round, and there was one taken in the 7th. Now, what's unusual about that is that normally you'll see 4 or 5 5-star guys go in the 7th round every year because an NFL team has taken a chance on that once believed greatness. Well, no, he didn't play football, and he's been out of the league out of college football for 3 years, but Damon Demas, 7th round. Like, you'll see those type of picks. I can't believe that Quinn Ewers was the only 7th round pick to go. Because it leads me to believe that if there had been 5 more rounds, that he might have gone even deeper. That they took him there because That's the part of the draft that if you're going to take a flyer on a guy who is once upon a time believed to be the next big thing, but doesn't, you'll still occasionally take a flyer on that guy. And hey, what the hell? It's only a 7th round draft choice.
That's so wild.
I was stunned that we didn't see. I've done it enough that it was like, okay, here comes the run on Brew McCoy, on Theo Weiss, guys that I thought actually were going to probably get drafted that didn't get drafted, that you go, okay, well, it never really happened, but that guy wasn't terrible at Missouri. I thought he might still get drafted, and no, it didn't happen.
Yeah. By the way, our guy Chris Bennett let us know sometime. He says Sark was asked about Quinn. Be interesting to see what that answer was, and what was the question as well.
Exactly. It wasn't that we thought he wouldn't get asked about Quinn.
Right. Was it? But yeah. The question, Chris, is did they just say, Coach, your thoughts on Quinn going in the 7th or something like that, and then he can get out of it by saying, "Oh, we wish all our guys the best." And
because I think the real question is, Sark. The most direct question will be, Sark, do you feel like you played the best quarterback at all times last year?
Right.
And I haven't seen. I see where.
Because he knows. Yeah, he knows trying to argue.
Do you want me to read you what Sark said?
Yeah.
This is according to Danny Davis from the Statesman. Quote, I also think it's ironic that in so many things are written and talked about the players from a negative standpoint that transfer schools or stay in school to take more money. But all of a sudden, here's a guy that said, I wanted to leave a legacy at Texas and I wanted to go play in the NFL. And now they're knocking him for not taking the money in college. I don't know which side of the fence everybody sits on that. But in the end, I just think it speaks to the character of him and what he believed in and what he stood for. Nobody wanted to win a national championship more than Quinn on our team the last couple of years. And I don't think anybody felt more than he did when we didn't beat Ohio State. In the end, it wasn't about going to another school. It's about the next part of the journey in his career and his life, and that was going to the NFL. He's got a good opportunity in front of him. Now it's time to go make the most of it, end quote. There's some straw man arguments going on in there.
Right. And once he does that too, Catch, once he lays that out, if you want to follow up and really ask the question, now you're being weird. Like the next media person that would follow up to really ask, because he didn't really get, it's like, Coach, you played a guy who got drafted in the 7th round.
Let's be clear though, when he starts off his comments taking shots at people who are saying that he should have stayed in the portal, either gone into the portal somewhere else. He's not talking about NFL people. He's just talking about,
right.
I don't even know who. Who's
people.
Just people. We literally haven't said any of that in our show. You know what I mean? I don't know that I don't think that's the conversation. I think a few people, the story of Quinn isn't that a few people think he should have come back and gone through the transfer portal. The story is that he fell to the 7th round.
Right.
And Sark is choosing to focus on kind of an abstract layer of the byproduct of where he went. The whole nobody wanted to win a national championship more than Quinn. You can't really quantify that, but come on, it doesn't do a whole lot of respect for how badly the other guys in the lot. We know that he's going to protect that Quinn is for Sark. Quinn Ewers is the guy that changed the program. That it was pulling him from Ohio State was kind of the unofficial "we're back, baby" moment in the program with regards to that was the piece that they felt like they needed to take a leap from where they were at the most important position on the field. And so he has a lot of rightful pride and instinctive protection of viewers. And a lot of the same ways that Mac did towards Chris Sims. And we always viewed that a little bit of a weakness for Mac. Mm-hmm. But I think Sark is always wanting to be quick to defend Quinn. And I just think he's standing behind his player and sometimes doesn't always, for Mac, didn't choose the best methods. Sometimes just let Chris Sims answer a question. But I think his heart was in a good place. And I think Sark's heart is in a good place. But
yeah, he's protecting his guy. He's not going to go.
If you had told Quinn Ewers 3 years ago if you transfer to Texas, you'll come into the draft and be a 7th round draft pick. A, he wouldn't have believed you.
No,
B,
he just laughed.
he would have laughed at you.
Oh, he laughed at you big time.
And C, if you convinced him because you had like the sports almanac from the Back to the Future movie, that's what would happen. He would not go to Texas. He wouldn't. So the story is that his slot in the draft is an outright failure. Now, what do we talk about in connection with that reality can go in a million different directions, and I doubt Steve Sarkeesian wants to have many of those. But if you were somebody like me that last year from the middle of the season on felt like, you know what, they're playing the wrong quarterback. They're playing the wrong quarterback, and if you tell me otherwise, I'll simply say Arch wouldn't do worse than just scoring 14 points per game on offense. That, you know, if you're going to play. Now, the thing is, I think Texas' shot to win the national championship, its best shot is in 2026. So if you started Arch in 2024, this is his last season.
Right.
But the gamble is that you can get him to 2026.
It's true.
And I don't care. I know what Arch's old man might say behind the scenes. I know what they'll all say. They're already talking about him. It is going to be, and don't let him go to Columbus and have success. We keep telling everybody, I don't think you guys fully know what to expect with the Arch Manning thing once it starts. The draft this weekend, though, was a little bit of a baby idea because his name got mentioned by NFL personnel guys.
Oh, yeah.
They just off the cuff were like, well, it's not like Arch next year in next year's draft.
They are watching. They are watching. They're absolutely
like. Did you catch that moment? I don't even remember who it was, but they brought in an NFL GM guy to talk.
Oh yeah,
just like, well, you know, at the quarterback position, you got to keep in mind next year's draft. It looks like it could be really strong with Arch and some of the guys. What?
Yep. Oh yeah, they're looking for it. It's like catch back in the day, and maybe this still happens, but like if you've got a famous. A really, really famous, really, really attractive, like actress, singer, whatever, and she's 16 and a half, and then she's 17. There's this weird group of people out there that celebrate the moment she turns 18, and it's kind of a weird, icky little, okay, y'all are strange. But then these NFL people, that's how they feel right now to me with Arch. It's like, oh man, we cannot wait for that moment.
As soon as he's legally, legal.
When he legally declares for us, oh my God, it's going to be incredible. All right, we have a super chat, and then we need to get to the Baron Serell story because Papa Serell has been in the chat today.
Oh.
We will talk about Baron Serell, but we do have a super chat from ATX Bates. Let's go $4.99 here. In thinking through why Shador fell, I have to imagine the interviews were like the job interviews from Step Brothers. Pam, maybe, yeah. Maybe ATX Bates, maybe the worst one of the worst interviewers that's ever been. That's a lot of weird
if you're
stories.
Gonna act like you're hot shit, man, you better be hot shit. If you act like you're hot shit and you're not, then you kind of become the entity that people try to stay away from. And I think that's what happened with Shador. I was reading Albert Breer today in Monday Morning Quarterback on SI, and he was like, look, he's not a plus athlete. There are questions about like his decision-making on the field. They kind of listed out a few other things. And then it was like, and then he didn't want to be interviewed and do team meetings and go through the draft process and be worked out. And
yeah. And when someone asked him a question along the way, he reportedly talked back. He reportedly like barked back at an NFL head coach. Like,
well, look, and this permeates down. I'll give you an example. There's a guy that's in the portal right now who's gone on a few visits. And one of the things that we've heard about the visits is like the visits keep going poorly.
Mm-hmm.
They're bringing him in thinking this guy, we're going to take this guy. And he's leaving campus and they're like, coach, don't let that guy come be on our team. Yeah. And it's a hell of a thing to go places and interview and make your situation worse. But like, it sounds like that was also part of the process. And then, honestly, by the time you get to the end, I just think one of the lessons that we have to do here, and maybe we need to take stock of this with Arch to a certain extent, although I do think it's wildly different. Some of it has to be, I don't know, there's a lot of tentacles to this, why it went down the way that it did. But Shador doesn't get the benefit of the doubt that Arch got, but it doesn't feel like they come from the same place in terms of their approach towards things, that Shador really felt like he was the man. And, look, if you are the man and you believe you're the man, then you're just confident. But if you're not really the man, but you think you're the man, then everybody else has a word for that. And cocky is about as good as it gets. And it's like, well, do we want the cocky, misguided guy in the building? You mean the guy who thinks his shit doesn't stink? Probably not. It sounds like it started to turn into that. And the thing is, I just don't think that story was told before the draft.
Right.
There wasn't enough. There were too many people who were saying he is a star. And what did we do? We were like normal sports football, college football fans were like, is he really going to go in the top 5? Because I think he's good, but I don't think he was the best quarterback in college football last year or even in that discussion.
Yeah, I thought if he ended up where Dart ended up, that would be some value for kind of what we saw, where it'd be like, hey, late first round, jump back in if you want. That's what it felt like to me. And maybe if he does a decent interview and doesn't treat Brian Daboll like he's not an NFL head coach, maybe if he's respectful in those interviews, maybe he does get taken there. Maybe that's where it would have been if he doesn't establish the reputation. But apparently he's got one now.
Is there any chance that Quinn had could Quinn have just been awful interviews?
I thought of that too, Catch. We all know, and we talked plenty about the sort of that, the way he carries himself sometimes on the sideline, that resting flat face of his. That's why when I saw the taxidermy behind him in that room, I thought, oh, good Lord. Like Quinn's face is going to be as flat as some of those animals on the wall at times. If this goes on for a while, they've got to pay attention here. But once you let those cameras in, you can't control, hey, turn it off. Turn it off.
First of all, the camera people needed to say, we're out. Like I've been there. I've done it.
Right. At some point they needed to, but it's like they're going to wait. If they're waiting around to see what that train wreck is going to be.
Well, because you keep telling yourself there's no way it can keep going.
Yeah. But I thought of that too, Catch, because Quinn's personality is a little flat at times. Sark talked about it the whole time he was at Texas. We're trying to get him to be a little more vocal. We're trying to get him to speak up a little more. It's one of those classic things that the media loves to harp on with coaches, but it is important. Vocal leadership, not just, he's a lead by example guy. He just goes out and shows them, right? But he's the quarterback. It matters. It matters, and then what did we hear about Arch Manning? As soon as it was Arch Manning's show this spring, what were all the reports about? He's a badass. He's a leader. They follow him. He's vocal. And it just started happening the way you want it to happen as a coach. They kind of had to hope Quinn came along there. So the answer to your question, Catch, is I think there's a decent chance that in addition to all the football stuff that we talked about, the eyes, the inconsistency, and the injury stuff, maybe that interview part, another I word, was a little shaky. There's a chance.
I mean, it's all on the table when this happens. You can't say he interviewed great. If this is what happens when you interview great, what would it have looked like? So I don't know. Do we have any more super chats, or is it time to go into some buy or sell?
We're going to get there. We got a couple of chats I wanted to hit in terms of Barron. Real quick, let's we'll pay a couple bills.
Yes.
Yeah, and we'll pay a couple bills too. Let me just give a little love to the Deep Eddy Vodka tasting room. This weekend, somebody was telling me they were trying to plan a trip to Dripping Springs. and do a distillery, do some kind of a drinking trip to Dripping Springs. And I thought, well, I've got just the place for you. And this is it. All the great cocktails. You can do a tasting if you like. Have a great time out there. Get some great spring weather going. Outside seating, inside seating. I did a little bit of each of that this past weekend. And it's a great thing to do. Head on out with some friends and family. Have a great time. That's what they're all about at the Deep Eddy Vodka Tasting Room. There are your hours up there, Thursdays through Sundays. Make your plans. Make sure you leave room for that great barbecue they've got out there at the Crimson Creek Smokehouse, the truck that is right there on site. Shout out to the Deep Eddy Vodka Tasting Room. And again, we are planning something. Hopefully, get the show out there, maybe an OB event in July or August. So stay tuned. We will get you the details on that. All right. I wanted to make sure we talked about him, Catch. And Big Cheddar did throw in Barron Serell hanging around at the draft to hear his name called. And the fact that he got called by the hometown Packers, that was too awesome. Chris Bennett did shout out Daddy Serell, and Papa Serell jumped in. Green Bay was fired up. You would have thought my kid was first overall. Loved it. Catch, it was a very, very cool story. And it's so good, I can set the team thing aside. Because you and I are Cowboys fans. We are programmed not to like things that are good for the Packers. But I dig Barron Serell. We've talked about him a ton. His dad jumps in the chat and made it even better. And watching that kid, get choked up talking about his parents, and then for the Packer fans to react, for them to pay their way to Green Bay to hear his name get called. Dadgummit, Mr. Serell, your son's going to make me root, not for the Packers, but root for him as a Packer. That was cool, Catch.
So Chad has a daughter who is getting ready to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
I've got twins who are getting ready to finish up the 5th grade. So you get to be like a parent. And, your kids are just everything. And to have seen Barron do the press conference after the big moment in front of the crowd at the draft, and to sing praises to his parents who were sitting in the front row there, just had to have been, what a moment. And to be a parent and to think that you would have your kid be in that moment and to think of you and to talk about you in such a way, it's it was one of the highlights of the draft, and I thought it was special. It was fantastic.
Yeah. By the way, Papa Serell, you'll enjoy my stupidity here. As the story was playing out and I first saw the video, I thought, oh my God, the Serell family went to Green Bay to hear his name get called. How did they know he was going to be a Packer? And then the gears started rolling in my head. And it was like, yo, dumbass, the draft was in Green Bay. Oh yeah, the draft was it. So I once I put it together, it made total sense. But that's a great idea in general. The fact that you guys did that is cool. And you're obviously...
Well, you see it in the NBA more often, right? You'll see some kid from Prague will get drafted, and he'll climb out of the stands and walk down to the podium and shake the commissioner's hand. And it wasn't like that, but because it was round 4, it kind of felt like that, where it was like, oh, hey, come on out. Yeah. It was cool.
And the other thing that's good about it, and Papa Serell knows this, Mama Serell knows this, the cool thing, Catch, you talked about being a parent. When you've been a kid and then you've been the parent, you start to realize, you'll think to yourself, man, these kids don't appreciate what I'm doing. And then the next voice in your head will go, right, but did you really appreciate what your parents did? Did you tell them enough? So when a kid takes a moment to do that in front of assembled media and all these folks, and he took like 1 minute and 25 seconds is the clip I saw, and it was brilliant stuff. And great. It's so cool. I love that, and I loved it for his parents, because that's not what you ask for as a parent. You do not expect your kids to ever do it, because deep down you didn't thank your parents enough. But when they actually do it, oh my God, it's just, that's the best thing in the world. So good for him. And if Green Bay has success, Mr. Serell, I will be glad for Barron. That's how that works. When I was a kid, one of my favorite Aggies of all time went to the Packers. Johnny Holland was his name. And it broke my heart that he went to the Packers. But if Johnny Holland had a good game, I'd look up I'd see the stat. Hey, Johnny Holland had an interception today, Dad. I would do that. So I can do that for your son. If Barron comes off the edge and crushes somebody, as long as it's not a Cowboy or a Buck, I'll give him his love. I'll give him his love. Best of luck to Barron Serell going to the Packers. We'll see if he can maybe work who wears 88 for Green Bay. Can he maybe get 88? That'd be cool. All right. That cleans up the chats. So thank you guys for jumping in with the chats and super chats today. We got buy or sell coming right up. Real quick before I do that, let me get you a reminder about sinus and snoring specialist. You know, it's one of my favorite places because it connects to one of my favorite things, getting a damn good night's sleep. Got another one last night and the night before, and I always do because of sinus and snoring specialist. This weekend, we went to the state art competition with my child, who got a pretty good grade, by the way, got one of the higher grades. We're proud of her, but we went and stayed in a hotel to make sure we could get her up early. My wife took her CPAP with her, slept like a baby. I was sleeping right beside her with I have a dental device that I wear so I don't grind the teeth, but also to keep the jaw in line. There's so many different ways to do this stuff in terms of ear, nose, and throat, and they've got all the options for you at Sinus and Snoring Specialist. So check them out. Tell them you heard about it here on Orange Bloods Live. I certainly would appreciate that. Mention my name or just mention Orange Bloods, sinussnoringent.com, or give them a call or text them securely at 601-0303. Sinus and Snoring Specialist. Feel clear, rested, and healthy. We hope you guys are doing well on a Monday as we get the week started. Catch, anything else on your mind before we buy or sell?
No, let's buy or sell.
All right, first or second?
I'll go first today.
All right, hit it.
Buy or sell number one, Quinn Ewers has a better chance of not making the team in 2025, the Miami Dolphins, than he does of starting a game for the Miami Dolphins in 2025.
Right now, I'm going to say buy because it's a hell of a mountain to climb, being a 7th-round pick like that. The Brock Purdy story does not happen to everybody. That was a very specific thing that he was able to take advantage of. A lot had to happen. So I'm rooting for Quinn, and I can always root for the Dolphins. But, that path is pretty wild. So I agree with your premise here. I think there is a better chance that he just doesn't make that team, and maybe it's practice squad. Maybe it's got to be another team. It's going to be tough for Quinn.
By the way, I'm fascinated to see how he does throwing the deep ball to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle.
I mean, I saw somebody throw that in on the OB chat. It's kind of a little joke, little poke.
Well, they were like,
yeah,
he won't be able to overthrow those guys. And I was like, I don't know that that's ever really been the problem.
Yeah, I was going to say the problem is going to be the cheetahs flying down the sideline and the ball is landing 10 yards, in front, like, whoa, wait, what?
If it was merely a matter of run faster, catch up to the ball, like on some level, you can adjust to that. That's not quite what was happening all the time.
Catch, that moment in Top Gun where Maverick hits the brakes and lets them fly by? Cheetahs don't do that.
Yeah. And I'm sure he'll be real happy if that happens. Buy or sell number two, Xavier Worthy caught 59 passes for 638 yards and 6 touchdowns as a rookie. You think Matthew Golden in Green Bay surpasses those numbers as a rookie?
Oh, interesting. Okay, so 59 balls, 638, 6 touchdowns, surpasses those numbers as a rookie. I will play the math and sell, because you're talking about all 3 of those. So probably tough as a rookie to say you're going to surpass all of them. I'll say maybe he gets 1 or 2, but not all 3. So I'll sell, but I'm another guy back to that team where Serell ends up. Golden's there too. That feels like it's going to work. You made comments in your 10 thoughts from the weekend about the connection that you felt with Golden and that crowd too, and the team, and just felt right for Green Bay, and that young quarterback's coming along. So I think it's going to be big. I'll say he misses on one of those, though. I'll say he misses on one of those stats.
Buy or sell number 3. Quinn Ewers is now the first guy you'll think of when I say the words recruiting bust.
Oh, geez.
Who is the first name you think of?
Is it accurate if the first name in my head was Perilou?
I mean, accurate or not, it's what name comes in.
That's what name popped in my head. But from now on, recruiting bust.
Does he have to make it in the NFL to avoid that? Like if he just goes off and disappears into the land of didn't make it land.
Right. Here's a question before I answer here. If he becomes, what's the Missouri, what was his name? Chase Daniel? Was that his name? The quarterback? If he becomes Chase Daniel, does he avoid this? Lifetime backup, starts a few games, but a lifetime number 2 kind of guy. If he pulls that off, does he shake it off or not?
I don't think so.
I don't either, because he was number 1 overall. And when you have talked about how highly he was graded and the next name you say is Vince Young, like that's it's a big deal. We can obviously talk about Vince Young and how all of that ended too. But yeah, right, I'm going to buy. We're so close to it. We're covering it. And to go that far down, I cannot. There's no way that's going to leave my brain. 7th round, I didn't expect it at all. So yeah, buy.
Buy or sell number 4. The Aggies getting swept this weekend was not needed in your A&M household.
That's a buy. That's a buy. See, here's the thing, Longhorns, Sloss. You can win a series. And you know what? When you win a series and little brother gets up, I don't know, a couple runs, twice, maybe. Have you ever seen a league of their own? Some people believe Dot dropped the ball on purpose. I'm not sure if I believe that, but there's a part of you that could believe it. I'm not saying you throw a game. That's not what I'm saying. Just wondering, just wondering if it'd been all right if a group of Aggies leaves town with 1 win. 1? No, it's got to be a sweep. Got to be a broom. Thanks. I've been picking broom.
Did you see the Lucci photos that kept popping up online?
No, I have not. But I was picking broom bristles out of my teeth all weekend. Thank you, Longhorns. Thank you so much.
I think it's Amanda Atwell on Twitter.
Okay.
Who got a picture of Billy on Friday night. I'll find the photo. But
Friday
Billy's in his seat.
Yeah.
And someone calls his attention and he looks over with this horribly sad look on his face. And they've got to hook him right in the picture in his face.
Damn.
I'll see if I can't find that photo. It is legitimately awesome.
My man does find his way into a lot of photos, doesn't he?
He does not avoid them.
Photos, memes, GIFs. They're all over the place. All over the place.
I might have even liked that on Twitter this weekend. Let me go see.
Was
if
that
not,
five?
If not, I'm sure Chris Bennett's got that photo somewhere.
Oh, man. Rough weekend. Yes. Rough weekend catch.
All right. Anyway, and finally, buy or sell number 5. The Town is Ben Affleck's best movie.
This is quite an assertion on your part in the 10 thoughts from the weekend. And I thought through it. I broke it down. I think there's like 2 movies that are in a battle. But in the end of it, I kind of like the idea of going with, the Boston bank robber movie. So yeah, let's buy that. Let's buy The Town. There's some big time moments in the movie. You got other big time actors in the movie. There's some incredibly emotional scenes in The Town. And I was interested to see you referred to it as maybe a perfect movie. I don't know if I've ever heard anybody go that far with The Town.
I think it's a perfect movie.
But I've probably seen The Town all the way through. I'm going to say like 3 times. And I don't recall a second that I didn't enjoy it. It just kind of gets a little better the more you watch it. Renner is so brilliant in that movie. And the woman, I apologize to her. I can't think of her name, but I love her. I love that woman. She's also in one of the Iron Man movies and really helps it along. Love her. And then you got, what's her name? Isn't Blake Lively the girlfriend in this in that movie? There's great performances all over. I think you're right. And for me, it's like a Town Argo battle. Those are the two movies where I say, you know what? Ben Affleck's not just an actor. Ben Affleck's a pretty badass actor. Give him his love. Give him his flowers. But yeah, let's go with The Town. Let's get people watching bank robbery movies.
By the way,
oh God. Oh, you know what? And here's what I appreciate about the picture. Other than, okay, first off, I appreciate the fact that that person who is doing it to Billy appears to be female. I enjoy that. Now that could be a guy that just wants to wear, some nail polish.
I think you're good. I think you're safe, Chad.
I think it's a female, right? The fact that a woman did that to Billy is interesting. And I am not best friends with Billy Lucci. I know him a little. It feels like Billy's leaning into the bit
there's no doubt.
Right?
There's no doubt.
Billy does lean into the bit a little bit more than maybe Texas fans would give him credit for. So I will say chef's kiss, no notes to both sides. I think both sides did their part there and got, despite the sweep, despite the pain, these two need to play each other. And I'm glad they did. And it was awesome. I also loved Catch. And Texas fans, you take this for whatever it's worth. If you want to brag with it, go ahead. I loved the headline I saw that said, Texas sweeps A&M for the first time in 15 years. And I'm like, whoa, wait, hold on, stop. Can we all just agree that a huge hunk of that 15 years was nothing? Well, come on. I don't know if that's how I would start it, but okay, fair enough. Congratulations for that. But that's maybe not the way I would have phrased it at the beginning. That was funny though. Good work on both sides. And I hope Billy and all the Aggies got home safely. All right.
5.
That is the 5. All right. Let's get, let's see, before we do that, let's make sure that is back up. There we go. All right, Catch. Let's start back on the draft. And you kind of asked me, so I'm going to kind of ask you, buy or sell number 1. You'll remember the 25 draft for 2 names, Shador Sanders and Quinn Ewers.
Buy. It's it's just kind of, and I think a lot of that is it would be Sanders and then nobody if the Ewers thing wasn't so localized for us. We're so close to it that they were occurring concurrently together. I don't think the nation was paying attention to Quinn Ewers. And if there was anything that made it okay for Quinn a little bit was that it wasn't like his name was on Mel Kiper's best available list and the number 1 spot for 4 rounds.
Exactly. Yeah, he wasn't right. He had, if you were watching, like we said earlier, it had fallen. If it ever was even in a discussion, it had fallen off that list or never was there.
Well, it got to a point where he was like number 9 on the list.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking at first, I thought, well, they took that out because they don't want Mel to look bad. And then I realized, Mel really doesn't like Quinn, does he?
Right. No, he clearly does not. He did not. All right.
Because I saw other quarterbacks on that list at some point, and I just assumed, I was like, this guy's Will Howard's at number 6. So Quinn must be number 3 on that list. And as it turns out, not so much.
Man, Howard, Riley Leonard, and Shuck. I watched them all try to throw footballs through the season and at the combine, and I wasn't impressed with any of the 3, and they all got drafted before Quinn. Couldn't believe it. Could not believe those guys that went before him. All right, Catch, let's talk about another draft pick. Buy or sell number 2. You like Jaden Blue in Cowboys blue, and he makes the running back room better.
Big capital B buy. I think it's a perfect addition for the Cowboys. I think he's going to do very well in Dallas. I think they need to find the complement. He's the B to somebody's A. Yeah. But I think he can be an exceptional B and quite the explosive counterpunch. This would have been a guy back in the day. If you had a Marion Barber or somebody like that, you can really think of a thunder and lightning type. He would have actually paired well, I think, even with Zeke Elliott back in Zeke's prime.
Right.
Somebody compared him to a young Tony Pollard when Pollard first entered the league. I can see a little bit of that, but I think Blue's a more natural runner than in that instance.
Are they hoping the cat from Denver is the A you're talking about?
Maybe.
Yeah. I'm just glad they got him.
Nick Chubb. I've seen some various suggestions, but I think he's going to do really well. It was one of the rare 5th round picks where I'm like, oh, I think that guy's going to be real good in that spot. So I was happy for the Cowboys and happy for Blue. I think that's going to be a good spot for him.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I'm hoping he is that B you're talking about. I'm just glad they had a B. Last year didn't feel like they had S, if you know what I'm talking about. All right, Catch, let's go to number 3. Buy or sell?
I do, unfortunately.
Yeah, you do. You watch those damn games like I did. When you heard Dion wants to be in the first meeting Shador has with the Browns, you hit an 8 on the surprise scale.
Sell, because I hadn't even heard that. I didn't know that happened.
Yeah, apparently there is, and it's one of those where like I'm just hoping that maybe it was misreported to me, maybe it was a fake account or whatever, but it was a quote from Dion saying, "I'm going to be there for that first meeting. I know why this happened," and Shador takes a back seat to no quarterback. Like it was a quote from Dion. It was like I'm just hoping it's not real. I am hoping that he is not that level of wacky dad.
Yeah.
Just hoping. All right, Catch. Let's I did amend this during the show. Buy or sell number 4. Arch Manning turned 20 yesterday. You think he and Uncle Peyton crushed some film and threw some route trees?
Sell. I don't know what he and Uncle Peyton did, but they did neither of those things.
Neither of those things. Okay. Yeah. Happy 20 to Arch. By the way, now again, the number might be off because Wikipedia is lying to me. Xavier Worthy also shares that birthday with Arch Manning. So Xavier Worthy, I believe 22, but who knows? Apparently Wikipedia is lying now. I don't know who to trust.
Well, all right, if Xavier Worthy's your friend and he has a 22nd birthday, you get him something for the garage, right?
Are you kidding me? Yes. You know what I'd get him? I would get him like the most generic shelf that you have to screw into a wall of a garage. And I would give it to him and pretend I never saw the video and just see what his reaction would be. That's what I would do. All right, Catch. We have a 3-way brunette battle, prime on prime hotter than. Are you ready?
Yes.
Everybody's got a birthday today of a different sort, but we're going prime on prime. Buy or sell number 5. Bridget Moynihan hits 54 today. Penelope Cruz is 51. And Miss Jessica Alba is 44. Prime on prime. Jessica Alba, hotter than Cruz, who's hotter than Moynihan.
Buy. Yep, you did that right.
Got it?
Yep.
Okay. All right. I'm a big fan of all 3. Big fan of all 3 of them. But
I think we did it right.
Okay. There you go. In the prime. I think those second 2 ladies might agree. Whatever your prime Jessica Alba is. Damn. It is highly competitive. That is buy or sell. All right. Let me just double check. Let me scan here. I don't think we've had okay. Oh, wait, this is good news. Thank you, Brandon, for throwing this in. Thank God. Brandon says it is a fake quote from Dion. Good. And hopefully more people are not just messing with these guys.
You are reading fake quotes and Wikipedia. You're like a 70-year-old on Facebook.
I am awful today, apparently. Yeah, if I tell you some famous person died today, don't believe me. Don't do it.
Chad, you're on Facebook, the algorithm and the fake news hitting him upside the head.
Oh my God. Did you hear that 8 Ohio State players are in the portal today? Will you sit down and shut up, please? You quit. All right. We're done. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. You know what? Hooked on the Horns. Thank you for the $5 super chat. I needed the Longhorns sweeping the Aggies this weekend. # not sorry for your schloss. All right. There you go. How many times did Longhorns say that over the weekend, Catch? Make the not sorry for your schloss comment.
The thing is, there's still so much baseball season to be left that I prefer to button it up a little bit more. Like you might see them. Texas and Texas A&M don't want to see each other in a super regional, but it could happen.
Yeah, especially, I mean, right, based on the way, like,
because A&M will go as a 2 or a 3.
Yeah, but the Aggies don't go. They will not get to host at that level.
No,
right?
But they'll be Aggies, 2 or 3 at a regional. But they could win a regional.
Yeah,
and then conceivably be on the road to Austin at that point.
Yeah, that was one of the questions I got over the weekend hanging out with my dad. At one point, he said, "So, do you think the Aggies are going to be able to host?" And I just stopped him before he finished the sentence. I'm like, "Dad, no."
Host? Dad, they're 12th in the SEC. They're not hosting.
I'm like, Dad, you're going to know. They're not going to. That's not how it works. No.
Hey, but that was a good Facebook parent kind of question.
Yeah, he was trying. He was trying. He was wanting it. He was wanting it. All right.
Nobody never wanted it more. Like Quinn Ewers wanted that national championship more than any teammate.
That's it. Brandon, Chad got hacked by Kurt Bowles today. I'm not sure if that's what it was. I don't know. Just sometimes.
All right, let's wrap it up. I'm good. I'm out of steam, actually.
Bad day. Yes. We'll say that it's Catch that's out of steam, and it's not me that's been swept away by this weekend. Football with Friends at 6 o'clock tonight. Tomorrow is Old Fashioned at 9 in the morning, and then we will get you the noon Modcast tomorrow. We'll see who jumps in on the Modcast. It's been weird the last few weeks, Catch. Like, I know it's your spring schedule, and you're taking an administrative day on Tuesdays, but it feels like Jason and Anwar have a lot of stuff to do on Tuesdays all of a sudden.
I'm can't control that.
I'm starting to take it a little bit personally.
There'll be no UT football commitment tomorrow. I can tell you that.
Do they not want to hang out with me? Anyway, we'll see who's hanging out with me tomorrow at noon for the Modcast. Y'all have a good Monday. We will talk to you tomorrow at noon for that one. Until then, we are House Divided, and it is Orange Bloods